Throughout this series, we have built a production-grade authentication system, a dynamic feed with real-time likes and comments, a chat application, and more, all starting from scratch. In this one, we'll focus on connections, sending requests, accepting them, notifying the right user, and ensuring you can only chat with connections. Let's dive in and take things to the next level. So far, our network page looked like this. By the end of this video, that's what we will be having, and we have invitations and also we have connections. And so far the Angular user, she doesn't have any invitations and any connections, and we can, as you can see, go from receive to send. Let's say she sends a notification to John Doe. So here on this tab, I'm logged in with John Doe. So if I send a connection request to John Doe, as you can see, the UI is being updated, and now it's saying that I have one invitation and it's not a received one. So if I go here, I can see it here, and on the John Doe side, he's gonna get this notification, and if he click here, it's showing that Anne-Claire has sent a connection request. So if John Doe accept, we went from 1 to 0, and here from 0 to 1. And if I look here, Anne-Claire is appearing, and I can remove her from my connection. And now if I go into my messages and I want to write to someone, only Anne-Claire is suggested. And let's say I didn't have any connection. If I remove Anne-Claire and go back to the messaging, I don't have any connection, so I cannot write. So this is what will be happening to the messaging component as well. So let us come back, and as you can see, I actually can connect to Anne-Claire from here as well. Let's say this time John Doe sends the connection request, so Anne-Claire would receive it here and she can accept it as well. And here also, this is gonna be dynamic. We're going to be showing the actual number of connections. Also, we're going to update our feed system so that we only show the posts coming from our connections. Before, we were showing a list of random posts that are coming from nowhere. Now, when a new user sign in, like me here, we show this message and also show him some suggestions here and also here. Okay, so let's say I come back here and I'm going to, on this tab, I'm logged in as Anne-Claire, so I'm going to send a connection to Anne-Claire, let's say. After sending, it's gonna be here in the send, and if Anne-Claire accepts, now if I, let's say, refresh a page, I'm gonna see the post of Anne-Claire. So that's also a slight change that we'll be making to the application. And as we go throughout this series, we'll work on this feed more and more, so that we have like recommendations that also can come from other people that we are not connected to based on our, let's say, activity on the website. So I have gone ahead and I have opened VS Code here, and on this tab I have a Chrome tab, and here I have the backend open with IntelliJ. You can actually get the project up and running by following the top instructions that are here if you are new to this series, and follow along. So we are at this commit. This video is going to be different from what we did so far, in the sense that I will not be coding. I will just be showing you everything that I did and why I did the way I did to have the changes that we have now, like everything related to connections, and also a feed where everything we see is coming from our connections. And I'm going to show you what I did both on the front end and also on the backend side, as we're not going to be touching on a subject that's very new. Like we won't be, it's not like when we had to work with WebSockets for the first time. So this is going to be a quick video, and I'm just gonna be walk you through the code. And let me know, because this is the first time that I'm doing this way since the starting of the series, and let me know if you like it or not in the comment section. So I'm gonna use here, so as all of these are coming from the backend, and these are the front-end changes. So the first thing that has changed on the front-end side, so this is the main component. So as you can see, we went from having just a div for the network path to this. So we have the network page that is acting as a layout, and then we have two pages. We have the invitations page and the connection page. So that's what you are seeing here actually. If I go here, so here I'm on the invitations. So when I click here, I'm actually coming to /network, like so. And this one is catching the /network and redirecting to invitations, because that's I want it to be like so. And then if we click on this, on this button, so this one is going to redirect us to the connections. and the connections is going to render the connection page. So if I show you here the network, that's how it looks like. So here I'm rendering a sidebar that's rendering the title that says manage my network, and then I've got this nav link for the invitations and this nav link for the connections. And then on the right side I'm rendering the outlet. So this outlet is going to be the connections page or the invitations page depending on the URL that we are on. And then below I'm rendering these suggestions. So these are what you're seeing here. And these suggestions, I'm grabbing them here from this endpoint that I will be showing you on the backend side in a bit. And also the connections themselves are being like fetched with this URL. And here I'm grabbing the like here I'm grabbing the invitations, the connections that are not accepted yet, and here I'm grabbing the connections that are accepted. I'm going to show you on the backend side how this is implemented. And beside fetching using a REST request, I also have a couple of WebSocket subscriptions for updating the UI without having to refresh the page. So the first subscription is about all the connections, like the new connections that are accepted. So let's say I am like here, I send a request to John Doe, and John Doe accepts this on the other side. So if he accepts this, the backend is gonna send a notification to this this WebSocket topic, as I am one of the people involved in the connection, okay, in the request connection. So I'm gonna get back the connection, and then I'm simply gonna update my invitations like what I have here, but also the suggestions. I don't want to show a suggestion that is like when there is a connection, I don't want to show the user here. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm simply filtering it here. And also when there is a when a connection is accepted, I'm also adding, like I'm updating the connection here. So the connection here, and I'm adding it to the list, and then I'm removing it from the invitations list. And finally, when someone cancels a connection request, we're gonna be getting this topic, and here I'm simply gonna remove from the connections, because I can cancel a connection, but also I can cancel an invitation. So in both cases, we want to go ahead and remove like from our both states. And the invitations page looks like this. So it's simply it contains a title. I'm going to come back to the invitations that shows the number of connections that we have. In this case, they are all invitations, like connections that are not accepted. As you can see, I'm making a request to the endpoint with the status pending, and then we're filtering over in connection and rendering this connection component. And also I've got a couple of WebSocket subscriptions like we saw on the network here, because on the network here we're updating the states for our sidebar here, but what you're seeing here is actually coming from the page itself. So we kind of have the same logic here. So for a new connection, when there is a connection that's accepted, when there is a connection that is removed, and we have the same thing here and the invitation page. So as you can see, the WebSocket subscriptions, and we are making this time without the status pending, because we want the connections that are accepted, and we're rendering them. So let me go ahead and explain a little bit the backend. And if you wanna know, like learn even more about everything that's happening here, it's gonna be the commit that's gonna be just after this one, the commit number 11. Okay, so let me come back. So on the backend side, I'm gonna make it slightly bigger. close the feed messaging as well. So that is the folder that I created for the networking feature. So I have a controller here. So in this controller, I'm handling like the getting the connections of the user, and here I have a status, and by default, so it is null. And when it's null, I'm grabbing the only accepted connections, and if it's not, I'm returning the what's given in the query. So first thing first, let me actually show you the connection model. So the actual connection that we are saving in the database. So it's gonna be having an ID, and then an author, the person that is creating the connection, like the person that's hitting the connect button, and then the recipient. And it's a many to one relation. And I'm also not going to be going in depth about this, because this is something that we covered in previous videos, and especially in the video number 4, where the thumbnail says more Spring Data GPA. And then a connection will have a status, which is an enim, and this enim like has 2 states, pending and accepted, coming back, and also a boolean that says seen, whether the connection request is seen or not. So that's how the UI is being able to show the red bubble. And then the connection creation date, which is a timestamp coming from, as you can see, Hibernate. So that is the connection model. And on the user side, what I did also, like I'm gonna go here, and I have added the mapping, so that I can access the connections that the user has initiated with this, and the connection that the user has received with this one, but I'm not sending them as JSON, so that the user object doesn't get bloated and also have cycle issues when we are transforming into JSON, a problem that we faced in previous videos. So and then I'm saying that when the user is deleted, I want you to delete all his connections, both initiated and also received. So now that we explained the connection model and the relation with the user model, I'm gonna come back to the controller. So here we are returning the connections. Here it's a post where we are creating a connection, so we are grabbing the user that is coming from the token, from our authentication token. So as you can see, we assume that the sender of the connection is the connected user, which is the only way actually. So, and then we expect the UI to give us the ID of the recipient, so the users that we want to connect to. Okay, and then we call this send connection request, which is going to be in our service, and I'm going to be showing you in a bit. And here we are accepting a connection with a put delete, like it's rejecting or canceling a connection. And then here we have the marking a connection as seen, so that the red bubble on the UI should disappear. And then here we are showing the suggestions. So now if I go into the feed to show you what all these functions are doing, so the feed is simply instantiating the connection repository, the user repository, and the notification service that we built in previous videos to implement notifications for the messaging, but also for likes and comments. So here what we're doing is this is the send connection request. So we are getting the sender, then the recipient. And what we are doing is that we're going to try to find the recipient ID. If it doesn't exist, we're going to throw an illegal argument exception. And if the recipient exists, we're going to go and check our connection table to see whether it exists a connection between these two users. So if it exists, we throw this, and otherwise we're going to simply create the connection, and then we're going to send a invitation request to the user. So we're going to send to the sender ID, but also to the receiver ID, so that we update the UI. So as I showed you earlier, so if I go back here to the network. Let me find new here. So here, as you can see, I'm getting back so a new connection as the like if I am the one who clicked here, I'm gonna get it back as the author. So it's gonna be this. So it's going to be the sender ID, and with that I'm able to update my invitations, but also my suggestions here. So that's what's happening here. Coming back, that's for a new connection request. Then we have a accept connection request, so that when that happens, where we have also some checks here and then here and then here, okay. And after that we are gonna set the status to accepted, save it, and before we're simply gonna also send a notification here, so to the accepted endpoint, which is, for example, here is being subscribed to. So coming back to the service, we have both like we have similar logic for the reject cancel. So some checks, and then here, and then save it and send a remove connection to users. Earlier I talked about this. We are simply grabbing all the connections that are accepted and that are like created or received by our user. And I'm going to show you the repository in a bit. And here we have the connection suggestions, so these users that are shown below. And what we are doing is we're grabbing all the users, then we're grabbing all the connections, and within the connections we are grabbing the connections where our logged in user is the author or the recipient. So that's what we are doing here. And then from the users we are only grabbing the users that are part of our connected users IDs. Okay, so this way we are returning like this list, that this list from all the users in our database that is filtered. Okay, and this is the marking a connection as seen. So that's simply what we are doing, and then sending a notification. But before we have used to have these checks. And if we look like to the connection repository, we have these derived functions like this one, and this one, and we have this one where we are specifying the query ourselves. So I actually kind of didn't really know how to have something that's accurate just using the derived methods here. So I was running into bugs, so I thought I'm just gonna write the SQL query myself. So here we are simply saying exist by author and recipient. So it's like making ASQL, like behind the scene, this is going to get transformed into ASQL. Like here, for example, find all by author or recipient is going to be like select étoile from users where the author.id is user 1 or the recipient.id is user 2, something like this. So that is the grand schema of things that have changed on the backend side. And if you want to look it up later, check out the commit number 11, as I said earlier. And on the front-end side, the only thing that I didn't show you so far is the connection component, I think. Yeah, this one. So as you can see here, whenever one of the connection request is rendered, so this, what you are seeing here is this connection component. We're making a request to the scene endpoint if we are the recipient of the connection request. Okay, and then we're gonna be sending it. And here we're showing different buttons whether it's accepted or not. So if it is accepted, we show remove. So let me come back here to the connection. Sorry about this. I think I'm logged out. That's weird. Let me come back. So here, as you can see, since it's accepted, I'm showing remove instead of cancel. So when it's not accepted, we're gonna be showing these two buttons. So the first one is going to say cancel if the author is the user that is connected is the author of the connection request. So let's say I'm gonna send a connect to Unclair. So here, since I am the one who generated my button is saying cancel instead of ignore. Okay, and then here I have got the accept, and every time there is a click on one of these, we're making the API request to the corresponding URL. Okay, and to show like notifications here in the header, I simply have a WebSocket subscription in the header component like we did for the notifications before. So as you can see, I have these subscriptions that are updating an invitations state that is up here. Okay, and then I am showing it. So let me come back. I'm gonna grab it and search for it, so it's somewhere below. So here I'm showing it. Okay, but I'm showing it only, I'm not on the network page. So if let's say I'm here, I'm showing it, but as soon as I click here, I want the user to see his invitations himself here. So that's the kind of what we did for the messaging and the notifications in the previous videos. So yeah, guys, that's it for this video, and I'm going to be committing all of this. As I said, it's going to be the commit number 11 if you want to dive deeper. And let me know what you thought about this way of doing. I thought that since we're not covering a new subject like WebSockets or authentication like we did in previous videos, I wouldn't take too much time and make it quick. And there are a lot that we still have to cover, like we don't have a search. So how to be able to search here, like to be able to search across users but also across posts. I'm talking about a real search, not something that is trying to match exact keywords. So we'll be covering something like Elasticsearch or other algorithms of searching. And also I am planning to work on OAuth in upcoming videos. I'm talking about the buttons that you have seen on all the websites that says login with Google, or login with GitHub, or login with Apple. So what is the engineering behind this? So thank you so much, guys. And if you want to support me, like the videos, share them with your friends who are also maybe interested in these topics, and subscribe, so that hopefully when we have to cover scaling and deployment, we are big enough so that we don't have to pay the servers cost ourselves. Thank you so much, and see you soon.